Hello, welcome to another episode of Mega Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we are talking about One Piece chapter 1056, The Cross Guild. Oh man, I'm so excited to talk about this because there's just so much to go on, and I could go on a long time by myself about One Piece, but that's not what this is. This is Mega Manga Mondays. We're a podcast filled with a bunch of professional nerds, as you would. We're usually a bunch of journalists who like to talk about the comics we enjoy. Also, some game developers and some content creators as well. But today, I've got a fellow Screen Rant writer with me to talk about One Piece. Ben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm Ben. I've been with Screen Rant for about 6 months, writing for the comics section, writing about manga and DC and Marvel comics. And One Piece is one of my favorite series of all time, so I'm always excited to discuss it. And it's, again, as Jason said, it's great to have someone to discuss it with. Although Mega Manga Monologues would be an interesting podcast, but it might not be as fun.
Right. Yeah, we'll see what the future holds, but I feel like that's what streaming is. I'm having to
Yeah.
monologue for a few hours while I'm playing a cool video game. Check out Honzy and Friends. But yeah, this is Mega Manga Mondays, and we've been having a lot of fun talking One Piece for the last few chapters because just the last few chapters have just been, for the lack of a better term, banger chapters. Oda has gotten to the point now where it's just like every chapter is filled with so many revelations and it's just so much to talk about. I mean, even the first page got me really excited to talk about it. The cover story, we continued with Germa 66's emotionless excursion, and one of my favorite characters in the entire series, confirming he's still on Whole Cake, Katakuri.
Oven?
Everyone's favorite character. No, I'm one of the weird ones. I like Katakuri more than Oven.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, we can't all be, you know, the based Oven fans.
Yeah,
Uh,
I understand.
yeah.
But yeah, the cover story has two of Big Mom's strongest sons fighting pretty much all of Sanji's siblings. And from everything we know of these characters, they stand like no chance against Katakuri and Oven. But it would be a very odd ending to this whole emotionless excursion if all of Sanji's siblings just perished or got captured, and that was the end of that. But I'm honestly a little disappointed. I was really hoping Katakuri uh, evolved after his fight with Luffy to the point where he left and kind of went on his own journey. But I wasn't really sure what Katakuri was going to do. All I knew is I wanted to see more of him. Um,
I mean, I think that over the course of Luffy and Katakuri's fight, Katakuri came to respect Luffy, but Katakuri's motivations have always sort of been to protect his family, right? And so I don't think he suddenly was like, oh, I don't want to protect my family anymore because there are other noble pirates out there, and Big Mom's kind of crazy. Because the fight didn't really show that much. The fight was just between these two guys duking it out in a mirror world and
you know what
gaining respect for each other.
I would disagree because I mean we had all of that, but we also had the other Big Mom children. There was the very annoying daughter. I can't remember her name, but
Yeah,
she.
but
Well,
with the fan club.
yeah, the fan club. I thought that their interrupting their fight helped Katakuri realize that, like, man, my family kind of sucks. It was
No,
my reading,
because
but
no, because he's still on good terms with the mirror world person, mirror world hack. Like it just because there are people in his family that he doesn't like, or is like annoyed with, doesn't mean that my family. I'm just gonna abandon my family now.
yeah, good point.
Uh,
Yeah, when you
yeah.
use the word abandon my family, yeah, that's a little bit more dramatic. I could see why he didn't do that. that's all just the first page of of this chapter. Ooh wee, what a chapter! We're still on Wano, but we're still kind of. I feel like we're still epiloguing, but this chapter definitely helped us kind of iron out all the revelations, especially that one of the world's most dangerous weapons is housed under Wano, and what that information, just the information alone, how that is going to affect so many different things. And in classic Luffy fashion, he doesn't want it. He doesn't want to use it. I mean, just the idea of like Luffy wanting to use a weapon at all, like, just sounds kind of weird. Especially he has the ability just to make himself into any sort of weapon he can imagine. It sounds like with Gear 5, but just there's just so much. Frankie being surprised that Pluton exists, even though he's the only one that has like seen the blueprints and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm just so curious on what Pluton even is. I mean, is it supposed to be a ship? Like, was that confirmed?
It's a big mystery because, I mean, you'd think it would be a ship because it was brought to, Frankie's Tom, so who was a shipwright. So you'd think it would be ship related, but like it's strange. Ancient weapons have a way of surprising us and being different from what we anticipate because we've got Princess Horikoshi, who is also like an ancient weapon, right? Isn't that's basically been confirmed for like.
Yes, I think just her ability to communicate and control the Sea Kings is considered such an important ability that they've dubbed her like is it Poseidon, the name of that weapon?
It's something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it might be Triton, or I don't know. But it's so the weapons are not your standard weapons, so it's very interesting to speculate on what that could be, and also like, why it's like locked away in Wano, right? And what that actually has to do with like the situation of Wano itself. But I mean, I'm sure we'll find that out in the very end game,
Mm-hmm. Hopefully during flashback. I think especially when Oda has said that he will reveal what happened during the Void Century, and everything seems to be lining up to 800 years ago. So hopefully we find.
Oh yeah, but I was more referring to like there's also I think these weapons are going to get used in the modern day, right?
Right.
Like I feel like these are a bunch of Chekhov's guns that are ready to go off at some point.
Well, yeah.
I feel,
especially with Caribou listening in there at the end. And it all makes sense on why he's there now. I mean, the whole time he's been in Wano, we're like, oh, okay, why is this guy here? Why did Oda put him on Wano? Because he's such a sleazy character. And but honestly, he also saved Luffy by giving him food during the Kaido fight. It's kind of a small little thing that doesn't get brought up a whole lot anymore, but apparently he is the only person that knows about both or two of the three ancient weapons. He knows about Mermaid Princess, and he knows about this one. And he says he's got to tell somebody about this.
He's very much a sort of buggy character.
Yeah.
Like, he fails upward almost in terms of just being in the right place at the right time to receive all this information. And I know that everyone's speculating that the certain someone's Blackbeard.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hilarious if it's just Buggy.
Oh man, I would love that twist because Blackbeard seems to be the first one I go to. Buggy would be a very fun twist. And speaking of Buggy, we finally got sort of, I mean, something we've been wanting was the Straw Hats to learn, and I wanted to get Luffy's reaction to Buggy also becoming an emperor. But another dynamic that I am very anxious to talk about, actually, is Zoro and Mihawk's relationship. Because we got a moment of Zoro being really surprised because the Straw Hats obviously know Buggy's real uh, I don't know to say vibe, but they know
Nature.
they know his true nature, and so it's incredibly surprising for all of them. But yeah, especially with Zoro's reaction to it. I mean, because Zoro spent so much time with Hawkeye training. And one thing that really stood out for me too was a scar on Hawkeye's chest. It's very tiny, but it kind of looks like he has a scar on his chest, very similar to the one that he gave Zoro at the very beginning of the series.
Oh,
And
I just interpreted that as a clavicle, but it does look like a scar now that I'm looking more closely at it.
yeah, and it's kind of a theory I came up with a while ago that I would find very interesting. I mean, as much as everyone wants the Zoro Hawkeye rematch, I just find it interesting if they already did it during the training and it could eventually be a
Mm.
flashback. But I love the idea that Zoro has already beaten Hawkeye and he just hasn't told anyone about that.
Mm.
Um, because
Yeah, I mean
it just
he's
eventually
not one to
became a
brag.
thing. Yeah, he's not one to brag, and I could see that being something that he accomplished during his training. That he was just like, all right, well, that was my own goal. I don't need to go broadcasting it, that I did that and all that stuff. But I just feel like it would be a fun like Oda throwaway thing that, oh yeah, that already happened, and because I mean we have so many other big potential things for Zoro to fight that I feel like it'd be kind of a interesting throwaway if that already happened and he's like, all right, well, I still have to fight Blackbeard's invisible swordsman guy and possibly one of the elders who is an old samurai of some sort. But
Mm.
I don't know that scar. If that is a scar on his chest, it kind of gave me more fuel onto that theory that
Yeah, it could be.
I enjoy. um, but yeah, what were some stuff about this chapter that you that really stood out for you, Ben?
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
Like so much. I mean, it's just so many like I mean, I guess the thing that I'm most happy that this chapter did is it really like resolved a bunch of sort of questions about where certain characters were going to go. It's like throughout Wano, people have been debating who's going to join the Straw Hat crew, right?
Hmm.
Like, is it going to be Carrot? Is it going to be Momo? Is it going to be Yamato? Who's going to join? And Momo has said like, "Oh, I'm going to stay at Wano." So Momo's kind of out of the way, but Carrot and Yamato were still kind of up in the air. And now we finally know what Carrot's going to do, or Carrot's going to stay on Zoe as King of Zoe, or Queen of Zoe, I guess.
Yeah, not just stay on Zoe, rule over Zoe, which I thought was wild. Like,
Yeah.
I honestly feel like I could tell a long time ago that I didn't think Carrot was going to be the next crew member just because of how Oda really shifted her focus away after during this fight or during the raid. If you had asked me right after Whole Cake, I would have said, yeah, I think Carrot definitely seems like a good contender. But Oda definitely seemed to start focusing a lot more on Yamato, and Carrot got almost no development during that entire arc. So
Mm.
it was really interesting to imagine, like, okay, well, if she's not going to be a Straw Hat, then what is she going to do? And I'm afraid that it's almost one of those things where Oda's like, oh, I mean, Kara's popular, so I need her to have something cool. Let's just make her King of Zoe.
I don't think Oda's that type of writer.
I
I
hope
think
not.
that Oda, like Oda's very intentional on the characters that he introduces,
Hmm.
right? Like if he introduces a character and puts focus on them, then they're going to go on to do something down the line, right? And he's not just gonna cast away a character and be like, yeah, this character isn't doing anything while our crew is off having adventures. So it makes sense that Carrot, who's the mink that we've gotten to know the best, would then become like the ruler of Zoe. And that also tracks with like other Straw Hat allies like, Vivi, right? Vivi became I mean, she was already the princess of Alabasta, but she stepped into that role even more after the Alabasta arc, right?
Absolutely.
And similar sort of thing with Carrot here, where maybe Carrot wasn't going to always be the ruler of Zoe, but given everything that they've gone through with her, uh, like Oda wasn't just going to be like, yeah, Carrot just goes back and lives her normal life again. Uh,
Well, especially like they brought up like her will is the closest to match up to Pedro, which makes me think
yeah,
that they possibly originally had Pedro in mind to take over for Dogstorm and Mr. Meowers. I can't
yeah,
remember Cat Viper. There we go.
Viper, yeah.
I like Mr. Mowers more though. So we'll see if that tracks. Um, but yeah, that was one shocking thing about this chapter that I thought was really interesting. But you make a great point. I mean, especially if it's a character that we've known the most, we're sure it's all going to, you know, pay off later in the series, and especially because there's not really a reason for anybody to hunt down, Zoe anymore.
Oh,
And she's got some help too. So
well, there's something going on with Zoe. Like Zunisha, the elephant itself, clearly has some tie. I mean, they have some tie to Joy Boy that they mentioned, but also to like Pluton, right? Because they marched up towards Wano and was asking like, "Are you gonna open the country?" And Momo's like, "I'm not gonna open the country." And Zunisha's like, "Okay, cool. Let me know when you do," and walks away.
peace.
So like clearly something's going on with Zunisha. So I do expect this all. I don't expect Zoe to like just disappear. I do expect Zunisha to play a big part in the final thing, and by extension, Carrot and the Minx to come back later on in the series and play a big role.
Yeah, absolutely. And but another shocking revelation in this too was Momo's grandpa revealing himself to Momo and his sister, and that's something that literally just a few chapters ago he says, "I'm never going to do this," and we never really had. It's kind of one of those things where he said it, and you're like, okay, well, we'll see how long that lasts. I definitely anticipate him revealing himself. But he has all the knowledge of the poneglyphs and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's got to pass that on. And that's something that even the official translation brought up. He's like, oh, there's not a lot I can do, but I can teach you guys some things. And we're like, oh, all right, all right. And we also, unfortunately, got the off-screen reunion of Kinemon and his wife. That's kind of disappointing, like really disappointing.
I don't think it was. I mean, it was not really that off screen. Like, we saw it a little, right? We saw him sort of see his wife and her be like, "Oh, I want to be at his side too," and then we see him sort of fawning over her, just not with her directly. So like, I don't think it was like super off screen.
Oh, I think it was like because I think the even the closest that people thought we had to it was them sitting next to each other during the fireworks display. But I think that was actually the little girl who's training with Shinobu now.
Well, no, what I'm referring to is like we see his wife in this
Yeah,
chapter.
we do, but he's not with her.
Yeah, but he's like she's talking about how, she wants to be at his side and like and
Yeah.
it makes it seem like the way that the paneling is set up, it makes it seem like he's like almost looking at her saying this. Um and then he immediately goes like, "Oh, she's still as beautiful as ever." Um so I was satisfied by that, even though it wasn't a direct like, reunion. It was close enough to satisfy me.
Yeah, I mean, it was charming and cute, and I really enjoyed the official translations on it. Like, dogs like cheese, but that's just too much. Like, them all being annoyed by how gushy he's being.
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, that's all charming, and I did enjoy that, but uh,
It
I
all
feel like it would have been a great emotional payoff. Like, it would have been
I
a great
mean,
moment.
I also kind of like it because it feels like it's more of a private moment between those two.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and like that's kind of a nice thought that they finally have this private moment together after so long struggling uh, in their own ways. So
That's an interesting way to put it. And I would love it if like somebody asked Oda about that. He's like, "Oh, that's their private moment. I'm not going to draw that.
yeah.
That's not for kids." Um,
Oh well, yeah. It depends on how their reunion went exactly.
wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more.
Oh,
Um, but
9 months after the raid,
yeah, absolutely.
they
We'll have a
they
new
welcome their
baby.
first kid. Yeah.
um, Another thing I really like too about the reveal that Grandpa Odin is alive was the running gag of Kinemon being an idiot genius
Yeah.
accidentally. I love that running gag. It just it felt very lucky, especially when it happened during the raid. But this one was just everyone seemed to like, oh well, yeah, I kind of figured that you were still alive and that was you. And Kinemon was just hiding his shock. I love that.
Yeah, no, I really liked that too. I've always felt that like Kinemon is like one of the least interesting of the scabbards, despite spending the most time with him. Um, because basically, like when we first meet him, I mean, I guess he's disembodied samurai first, but he's just sort of like standard samurai, right? Because he's the only samurai from Wano we see for a while. Um, and then once we meet like Raizo, who's got this cool design and ninjutsu scrolls, and then we meet all the ones on Wano, and we meet the trader as well, who's got like an interesting power. Like Hitamon just, I feel like gets overshadowed by them. So I'm glad that he's got something that's like uniquely his, and is just a hilarious sort of thing that keeps recurring.
Well, I'm glad that that is. Hopefully, that becomes his trait everybody remembers, and not the being able to communicate from farts.
Mm.
Because I thought that as silly as One Piece can be, there are times it can be too silly for me, and
Yeah, and that
that
was Punk Hazard as a whole for me. Uh,
yeah, yeah, I thought that's a very interesting perspective because Punk Hazard is one of those arcs that I feel gets better with age for me. Like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad. But then again, it might be. I might just be remembering it better than it was. I,
yeah, I mean, for me, it's like the whole like kid thing is super dark,
yeah. Oh yeah.
um, which is, you know, like that. There's a core of darkness at it, but like Caesar is just not a compelling villain to me,
Hmm.
and a lot of what goes on was just sort of like I liked the body switching antics because I'm a fan of that trope, like the whole body swapping and getting used to each other's bodies, and it's just a fun sort of thing. But like overall, it's just extremely silly. Like Law doing his room shenanigans is just it was a very silly arc, despite having a lot of seeds for later arcs in it. And as like the first arc past Fishman Island in the Grand Line, not in the Grand Line, but uh, in the New World, it was very. I wasn't a fan, but that's my own personal griefs about Punk Hazard. We're here to talk about this chapter of Wano, so I won't. I won't rant more about that.
Yeah,
Um,
we do need more Caesar clown though. That's or Gastino. Um, but
mm,
yeah, actually, especially thinking back to that one. I mean, he was just such a like mustache twirly villain, and
yeah,
yeah, I'm glad that we moved away from that because well, we quickly moved away from that because we followed it up with Don Flamingo, and then Kaido essentially, Big Mom and
yeah.
Kaido. So
It's kind of funny to see the progression of villains post time skip because like the first villain, well, ignoring the Return to Sabaody arc was just sort of like
yeah,
reunion thing. I don't even count those guys as villains. Um, And, like, the first villain we got was Hody Jones, who was this, like, just over the top, very sort of like,
Sentient
like overly
bicep.
despicable. Yeah. And just very kind of boring villain. Uh, and then we get like Caesar Clown, who's a very mustache twirly villain. So we didn't have really good villains until Daffy in the post time skip. Um,
Yeah, Daffy, then Katakuri, and then Kaido. Like, oh yeah, I just even more anxious to see what's next. Which kind of leads into the end of this chapter for us because we still have lots to talk about in other bits, but just moving along. I think it's really cool that the three captains shared the poneglyph recording, and Law just being, the cool guy. Like, oh no, we all worked for it. Let's do this. Like, he's just a good dude. Like, he's not trying to screw over anybody and stuff like that. But also the Cross Guild having their amazing poster shown off with Buggy now in charge of this Cross Guild with Crocodile and Mihawk, and they're putting out bounties on Marines, which is a very interesting dynamic that honestly kind of surprised that no one had done it before. And
yeah.
in the One Piece world, it's just it's chaos. It's going to be chaos.
I'm kind of surprised that Buggy would actually pay out a bounty on a Marine.
Yeah.
He's a very greedy guy.
Yeah. Well, I almost think, I mean, we know Crocodile has the ability to organize and work in the background, and with everything he did in Alabasta and Baroque Works, I mean, he definitely seems like he'd be the best receptionist and planner for this type of thing. But
Yeah, I fully believe that Crocodile is the brains behind that operation. And he's like, yeah, Buggy, you can be the face of it. Uh,
and then Mihawk is just like, yeah, well, all right. I don't have anything better to do, I guess. So,
yeah.
but Mihawk's, I don't know, his motives have always been very mysterious.
Yeah, we haven't really gotten much background on him.
Yeah, like,
Which, yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, we don't really have much background on, like, Crocodile either, right? Uh, we have so little background on Crocodile that there are theories like, oh, Crocodile is Luffy's mom.
yeah, I was gonna
Uh,
bring that up.
yeah, but, like, uh, we don't necessarily have to have background on certain characters, certain major characters, for them to be very impactful, but it is kind of weird in a series like One Piece that's so devoted to fleshing out all its characters to an insane degree that we haven't gotten any sort of background details or backstory to like Crocodile or Mihawk or any of those big figures.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking back to it. I mean, we got lots of backstory for Daffy. We got lots of backstory for Hody, Katakuri, and Kaido is one that we don't have nearly enough backstory. we
Yeah, but there's the promise that we will get it in the future with a Rocks Pirates flashback at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and then like pre-time skip. Actually, I guess pre-time skip there were a lot of villains that we didn't get backstory for. Like we never got a backstory for Enel, right?
Right, right.
Um, we never got one for Crocodile. We did get one for Arlong, but way, way down the line.
We
So
kind of
not
got
at the
one for
time.
Moira, but that definitely didn't really flesh out until later, where you find out that he tried to fight Kaido and didn't work out for him.
Yeah. And then we never got one for like the CP9 people really, but that was just an extension of the government kind of, so we didn't really need one. Um,
Well, yeah. So I mean, the whole world is transforming, especially with the Cross Guild probably going to be gaining prominence over and over. But that kind of leads to another question mark, another mysterious figure that is being alluded to, with Kid bringing up the man with the burn scar. And the first one I immediately go to is Sabo, especially with Law kind of getting a grim look on his face, like it's as if he's known some stuff that he's been hiding from Luffy. And then I almost feel like Robin kind of having the look of like, oh, we're about to talk about this. Like it just seems like Sabo is definitely the one that they're talking about. And so I'm really wondering if that's the case, if that's going to change, or just, just been very curious on Luffy's reaction to Sabo's journeys recently. Up until recently, we didn't know what happened to Sabo, but now we know that he's not only alive and kicking, but thriving. They're pretty much calling him the new Flame Emperor. And just, yeah, very curious to hear what Luffy's interpretation of all that would be. But I almost think if it is Sabo and they tell him everything that happened, I could just see him being like, oh man, way to go, Sabo. But then again, they're also, the world government's trying to frame Sabo for killing Cobra and possibly kidnapping Vivi. So I don't see the Straw Hats being like, okay, well, let's turn around and go backwards and go deal with that.
Yeah, especially given how Luffy treated Ace when like Ace was alive. Because he was like, oh, Ace is just doing his thing. He doesn't need me. That only changed when, in the lead up to Impel Down and Marineford, when the crew was separated, and Luffy was like, my Vivre card is running low on Ace. I should go help him. So I think he's just gonna be like, oh, good for Sabo, and then and then just ignore it. But who can say? I mean, and also the man with the burn scar might not be Sabo. Why wouldn't they just call him like the Flame Emperor, right? So it could be someone else. Although I think it probably just is Sabo, and Oda's trying to be cryptic.
Right.
But only time will tell.
That's very true. And time will also tell. I mean, we didn't officially get Carrot saying, yes, I'll be king, but that seems the most likely thing. So I think we're willing to accept Carrot is not going to be a Straw Hat. And it just seems so likely that Yamato is going to be. And I think that also leads into the part of this chapter that apparently the Straw Hats said goodbye to everyone except the two people they've spent the most time with, Momo and Kinemon.
It's strange because, like, especially after like Alabasta, right, where they did the whole like X's on the arms thing.
Oh yeah,
to say goodbye. Like, these sorts of things in One Piece are associated with grand gestures that are like iconic, like leaving the islands and stuff. And here it's just like, they leave out the back door. Like, that doesn't seem right. So I'm sure there's something that's going to happen where they'll be able to say goodbye. But it could just be they don't want to like taint Momo's throne with like association with pirates, but I feel like there's something else here.
Yeah, I absolutely think there's something else. I think that Oda probably has some grand exit he wants to draw. And I think we're going to be getting that in the next chapter, 1057. I mean, I think it'd be awesome and very visually cool to see like Momo in full dragon form with Kinemon and Yamato like riding on top of him to try to catch up to the Sunny, and especially if Yamato wants to live the way that Kozuki Oden did. I could see her. I think Oda would absolutely do a parallel of when Oden tried to join the Whitebeard ship, and he had to like do some sort of test. I almost wonder if getting on the ship is going to be not Momo's, Yamato's test, and we all know how fast and how beefy Frankie has made the Thousand Sunny. So it'd be pretty cool to watch a dragon chase that and Yamato try to figure out a way to get on the ship before they go.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I guess there's still a chance that Yamato might not make it onto the ship. And it's just like all the One Piece all the Yamato fans who are like, get Yamato in the crew are just going to be disappointed. Um, but no, I think Yamato will manage to do whatever it takes. Although it doesn't feel like Luffy would be one to set that sort of test. You know, Luffy's just sort of like, I mean, if Luffy likes you and you want to join the crew, I think Luffy will just be like, yeah, you can join my crew.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it'd be really funny if Luffy's just like, no, it's cool, you can join. And Yamato's just like, no, I need to do it like Odin did. So let me try this water. I'll be dragged along from the ship for a while. And then because she ate a devil fruit, that doesn't work out very well.
That would be very funny, and it would be fitting with Oda's sense of humor. Um,
I'm calling it here. Prediction on Mega Manga Monday. That's how the next chapter is going to go. But yeah, what were some other highlights in this chapter you want to talk about, man?
well, maybe not a highlight, but an interesting thing is that like they don't necessarily know what island they're going to next.
Right.
They just picked the log pose. So I'm very curious to which island we're going to go to next because people have been theorizing for years. Okay, after Wano, we go to Elbaf, right? But it'll be interesting if they go to a different island entirely in between, and maybe something happens on the island to then bring them over to Elbaf. But it'll just be interesting seeing a new island. Period. Because it's been so long.
Yeah.
We've been on Wano for so long that I'm starved for Oda's like creative world building. Let me see a new society and how it operates and its aesthetic and all that stuff. Let me see what new outfits the Straw Hats are gonna wear on that island.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, because we have a panel of like Law talking about there's three different directions and three islands that they could possibly go to. Excuse me. And of course, he makes the most intelligent decision, just like, okay, well, I have the most direct route, so he must have a specific. They must have a specific location in mind.
I think it might not be a specific location. It's just by distance, right? Laws like northeast takes me just the furthest because like there's east and southeast, and south is like the wrong direction, I guess. So like, I don't quite know, but
Right.
it's not really well explained. I think that the calm belt sort of map they show is not well done because it doesn't label one of them northeast. It's implied that the one on the furthest left is northeast, but
Well, yeah, and it's literally the islands are drawn with the least amount of detail possible. And
yeah.
I mean, just give us the names of these islands, please. We're just starved. We're starved to hear about
I
any
mean,
new
they probably
places.
don't know the names of the islands, right? So
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You would think the people of Wano. Well, I don't know. It's closed borders, so
yeah, they're not
yeah.
traveling out.
Yeah, my bad. That was incorrect.
Mm.
But yeah, another cool thing I liked about this too is Shinobu is a attractive lady again, but the official
Yeah.
translation is like, I'm a little haggard right now. Like
Uh,
she was so comfortable in her own skin. I really enjoyed that.
yeah, no, it's a nice sort of. I think it's like I don't think maybe reading too deep into this is the best thing to do because Oda's kind of like just throws things in for jokes, but
Hmm.
it is sort of a nice sort of thing where like Oda draws all his women pretty much the same way, as like tall, slender, you know, the One Piece type, like
Yeah.
Luffy or not Luffy, Nami, Robin, that sort of
The
body type.
Luffy female body.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, and like he's presenting that as like the image of attractiveness. And so it's nice to see that like Shinobu could be that sort of stereotypical image of attractiveness if she wanted to, but like she just wants to be herself and she's beautiful as she is
Hmm.
normally, you know. And she chooses that, and that's a very sort of powerful message about beauty standards and stuff. That Oda probably, you know, is like Oda would probably be like, "Why are you reading so much into this?" But
Yeah.
uh,
Well, it was another thing about that interaction I really enjoyed, and this is something that YouTuber Grandline Review pointed out that I really thought was cool. That Tama is kind of taking on the like childlike Luffy role here, and
mm,
Luffy has taken on the Shanks role. Like Tama wants to train up and grow strong to eventually be able to go out on sea and possibly join Luffy's crew someday. And Luffy's just like, yeah, keep on at it, and you'll get there. It just kind of shows like how far he's come, and I just love thinking back to when we first met Tama, and um, she's got a much happier life now in front of her, but a lot like how she met Ace. She's just inspired, and she's definitely taken on that role now. So,
yeah.
but
I'm excited for the sequel series, Tama Ninja at Large.
yeah,
Uh,
it's something that I really think would be a fantastic way to end the series. Is if Naruto kind of, well, I can't spoil it. I'm not going to spoil that because I don't think you've finished Naruto. But
Not yet, no.
yeah, I think this would be a great way to end One Piece. Is if we see like how things are going a few years later, and you kind of get time to catch up. Like you see like an adult version of them, and them talking about how the world has changed and stuff like that. I think that'd be a
Oh yeah.
really interesting way to kind of show how everything evolved after the series.
You
The climax of the
you know
series.
what I think? You know what I think would be incredibly powerful?
Hmm.
There's another moment at the end of the series where like the Straw Hats have to split up and go on their own paths, but they agree to meet up in a couple years. And then the whole final like arc, which is however many chapters it takes to check up on everyone, is them sort of reuniting and coming back together.
Yeah,
Uh,
kind of how
and
Seabody.
yeah, it's kind of like how Return to Sabaody was. Yeah.
That would
Um,
I yeah, I think that makes so much sense in how it would be. I think it would be great if Oda kind of mirrored Seabody, just obviously years later after everybody accomplished their goals and stuff. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, and another thing, like the next page after this is something I didn't realize until my reread of the chapter with the official translation, was Momo like looking over the balcony and seeing the kids at play, and you just see him kind of look a little bummed out, and it's just the reminder is like, yeah, no, this is like an 8-year old child in a man's body. He gave up his normal childhood of being able to grow up and all of that to lead Wano and all of this.
Yeah.
And then
It is, and you see also in that moment, like there's this woman who's like Lord Shogun, and there's a heart next to her thing.
yeah,
So it seems like she's trying to seduce him.
right.
Uh, and he's like he doesn't care. He's got the mentality of a child. So um, yeah, it's a tragic situation, but it's a noble sacrifice that Momo made. Um, you know.
Well, and it's kind of the whole thing with Carrot too. Like Carrot is supposed to be, I think, only like 15 years old. So her being the king of Zoe is like shocking, but not nearly as shocking as this 8-year old having to lead Wano. But he's gotten the blast breath down, and he has the vestiges, or he has the vassals to help him every step of the way. So I feel like Wano's in a good place, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, just with all that being said, I agree with you. I'm so ready to get off of Wano. I am just so excited to see what's next. And honestly, I think that we still have probably another chapter or two of Yamato joining the crew. And hopefully a tease of what the next location is going to be. But yeah, man. What do you? I still think Oda definitely has like a panel or a couple of things in mind for how he wants to draw their send off with Momo and Kin, and I think it's going to involve a big freaking dragon chasing the Sunny, which is going to be pretty cool.
I completely agree. I think you got the right idea there.
Yeah, man. Anything else about this chapter you'd like to talk about?
No, it's just I mean, I've been loving all these latest One Piece chapters. It's just they've been packing so much information into them, and it's just great. Like I'm so happy the series is back, and sure it won't be back next week, but hopefully the week after it'll be here, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll definitely be talking about it on Mega Manga Mondays. Excuse me, I might be on vacation the week it's coming back, but we'll definitely be talking about it as soon as we can. Yeah, we'll go ahead and move into some plugs and recommendations. I would love it if you checked out Mega Manga Mondays on Twitter. Also, you could follow us on YouTube and or subscribe on YouTube and listen to all of our other podcasts there. We've done series where we talk about obviously One Piece. My Hero Academia just had an amazing chapter, and we had a lot of fun talking about that. Jujutsu Kaisen is another series we talk about. Dragon Ball Super, Berserk, Chainsaw Man. There's just so many great mangas going on right now, and we love talking about them. So we'd appreciate if you checked those out, and feel free to follow us on Twitter and leave us any comments. Tell us what your favorite parts of these chapters are. We'd love to hear from you. But also check out screenrant.com. We are writers there. I write a lot of video game related stuff. But Ben and a lot of our other guests write on the comics section, and they write some very interesting, introspective articles on mangas, Marvel, DC, all kinds of stuff. So highly, highly recommend that. I also do a YouTube series called Honzy and Friends, where I like to stream video games. Right now we're playing God of War on the PlayStation 5, and it's very pretty and very fun. And oh my god, it's so dramatic. The writing on those games is so good. I mean, they do things that movies struggle to accomplish these days. So can't get enough of that. Hope you'll check it out. Ben, how about you, man?
Yeah, so for recommendations, I know that Jason, you've been watching the Sandman show and have said some very good things about that. I have not seen the show yet. I plan to. But the comics are some of the best comics I think that are out there. Like they're some of my favorite, like one of my favorite series, maybe my like top comic series of all time. Ooh. And that's including One Piece. Wow. So like now's the perfect time to dive into them because the show's out and it's a wild ride. Very, very good stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. For plugs, I have a YouTube channel of my own called YGO from Zero, where I sort of do deep dives into historical formats of the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. And so if you're interested in that sort of stuff, it's very fun. So check that out.
Yeah, man, I checked out your channel the other day. It looks like you're getting a good amount of attention there, and I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to see it, man, because you do a good job.
I'm also very glad to see it. Very grateful to the people watching. So, it's like one of my videos got over 1,000 views the other day. So apparently some people like it. So, if you're interested, definitely check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hop on the bandwagon.
All right, man. Well, this has been Mega Manga Mondays for One Piece Chapter 1056. Definitely excited to talk about 1057 whenever that comes out. But hope you'll tune in then. And thanks for listening. And thanks for your time today, Ben. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's been great. See y'all next time.
Peace.